Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm here to bring you our very first Viz script tutorial. Um, that we'll carry out in the Viz Artist Viz Engine graphics environment. This company, Viz Artist, made a very useful tool called the Viz Artist and Viz Engine ecosystem, which is a real-time graphics program that allows newscasters and sportscasters to do real-time graphics in AR on the field or overlay on screen. In many various ways, and we'll get into that. But now, in this case, this specific video just focuses on scripting within the Viz environment. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to add a cube. We add our cube in here, and then I'm running in the classic render framework for now, and not the Fusion pipeline. But the scripting, what we're covering scripting, is not going to really matter with regards to the render pipeline at this stage yet. Too much. So let's do this. We're going to go to material. In fact, I built a Fusion-based touchscreen not too long ago, touchscreen app scene, and I didn't notice too many things that were different for the Fusion pipeline as of yet in that neither. So yeah, the scripting is very relevant and for going back many versions and going forward many versions. All right, so here we have our cube. Now let's just make it a little bit nicer to look at. I mean, this is not very pleasant to look at. Now we see our cube over here. See, it has perfect corners. And in the real world, even though we strive for perfection in the real world, in the CG world, we strive for imperfection, because imperfection is realism. There we go. Now, let's just add a little reflection texture here, just to make it a tad nicer to look at. Woohoo! Now it's a little bit nicer to look at. Okay, great. All right, now we're going to start. No more digressing. We have something to work with. Ladies and gentlemen, we have something to work with. See, so yeah, basically doing scripting inside the environment, you need to determine two things: what do you want to do and when do you want to do it, right? So if we go, in this case, I want to ease you guys into the Viz scripting like an old man into a nice warm bath. But then once we are comfortable, we're going to make some cool things happen and test a bunch of cool things, because you can do so much in Viz. You can do pretty much anything in Viz. You don't even know the cheat code of checking your console to see how you can wrap commands. There's a lot of very powerful ways that you can do pretty much anything you want to do in the Viz environment. So before I start with the script side of things, well, I'm going to rotate this cube with script, right? So right now I can click here and I can rotate it around. Cute. And I can go to the stage, and you know what? If someone asks a designer to rotate this cube, they would animate it. So we would go here, we would drag our cube to our director, and we would create an animation. So we have, let's say there's the starting point, and then there's the end point, let's say 360. So there we go. Our cube is rotating 360-degree rotation now, and it has an easing on its keyframes. So if I had to click over here and let's loop it out infinitely, you notice it will do like a stop go because of the eases. So if we wanted to rotate infinitely continuously, we just need to make the keyframes linear on the y-axis. So we do that, and we do that, and if you press play now it spins continuously and smoothly. And if you want it to spin slow, you just pull the second keyframe up, right? Cool, awesome control, great stuff. Now swap that cube with an earth, slow it down, and put another earth, invert the cropping with the boolean plugin, and you have a BBC style earth thingy messing around with. I'm talking a lot of crap. Anyway, let me continue. So now, what if we wanted to do this with script with not having an animation? Let's delete the animation. Gone, right? And here we have our cube. So I'm going to go and click the plus and add a script plugin. There we have our script plugin, and this is a little help menu for the script plugin, right? So in our case, we're gonna, like I said, we need to determine two things: what and when we're doing it. So what are we doing? Rotation. When are we doing it? All the time. So we're gonna go to callbacks here, and the onExec per field event triggers once per frame. And Viz, as you can see at the bottom there, runs at 50 frames per second. So this triggers 50 times a second. If I go print line, hello, or test or whatever, let's see. If I open up the console and I compile, this guy is being spammed it's being run a lot, 50 times a second. So be cautious how you use it. Don't just use it for anything. Use it when you absolutely need to use it, and when you do use it cleverly. But it's very powerful. In this case, let's go. We want to control the cube, so the script is sitting on this cube, right? So I'm just going to go this. I'll teach you guys how you can reach any container or thing inside Viz from wherever the script is sitting. But in this case, it's convenient. The script is on the container. So I'm just going this dot rotation dot y. We can go plus equals, because we're going to increment it, let's say by 0.2, and I compile it. And then when I compile the script, we can see the script is running. The cube is running. Let's shall we say the script is running and the cube is running, as you can see right there. Yeah. And if you wanna maybe make it a bit faster, we can set that hard-coded value to 0.5, stop and run the script again, and now it's running a little bit faster. Right? Yes, we have a working script, guys. That's working. It's a plugin, right? It's a plugin, and if I had to bring in another cube in this environment and drag the script onto it, it will do its thing with that as well. You see? Awesome stuff. Now, let me delete that and just work with our one script again. Let's now get to more useful script stuff and stop messing around. Okay, so this is not really a plugin. This is just a script. Let's make it more into a plugin thing so it can actually be more usable for individuals. So let's add a on and off button for one, right? We don't want people compiling a script and uncompiling it to make it used. Like, they want us to have a nice on and off button to actually drive this plugin with. So I'm going to add on init parameters. It adds it at the bottom here. I'm just going to move it to the top. I like to initialize my parameters first, and I'm going to add a button. So register push button. Right. I'm going to show you guys how to and where to look to know what to put here. For example, I'm going to take you there for when we do the double parameter, when you register double parameter. So register push button, and we're going to call it on. Why not? And the label is on, and the ID of the button is 1. And if I stop the script and I run it, we see now there's a button over here. It doesn't do anything yet, but we have a button. Great. So I'm just going to speed this up a little bit so we don't sit too long over here. I'm going to go and we add our off button. All right. And now, there we go. So we have on and off. And now we need to link the on and off button to our rotation. So we need a variable to drive this. So let's go dim state as Boolean. Right, a Boolean, it's 0 or 1, true or false, on or off. Let's go Boolean, and we set it to false by default. Right, so then we can basically we can make these guys set this state to on or off. So, but currently when you press these buttons, they don't do anything. Nothing. There's nothing that tells these buttons to do anything. So we need to find the event that happens when you click buttons, and that is on exec action. So if I double click that, we have on exec action, and this guy fires when any button is pressed. Right. So you have to determine which button is pressed using an if statement or a select statement and your button ID. So I'm going to go if button ID equals 1, then do something. In this case, it'll rotate. And then else another button is pressed. In this case, don't do anything. Do nothing. Right, there we go. So we have that. And then I'll just set the state here. State equals true. So we added our state, right? So state now is set true when we press button 1, which is on. And if you press button 2, it must set state to false. So now they are wired up, meaning that if I press on, it will set state to true, and if I set off, it will set state to false. But it still won't affect our rotation. So now we just need to wrap this in the if statement. If state equals true, then do the rotation. Else, don't do the rotation. And that's it. So let's just go end it. So basically over here, if the state is true, it will drive the rotation. If it's false, it won't. It will do nothing. Nothing must be in there. Compile. So now let's try this. If we go off, we're already off. So if I go on, there we go. Now it's rotating. If I hit the off button, it stops. On, off, on, off. Great stuff. But now let's make this more usable. Let's add a speed parameter in there. And I told you guys, because you might ask, how do I know what to put here? How do I know how to register the parameters? And what you do is you go to help, home, and we go to our data types and procedures, and we go and look in our global procedures. Over here, there's a bunch of register commands. Register button, register drop down, register double, register integer, register string. So what we are doing is we want a double parameter. So I'm going to copy, that's the get. That's the get. I want the register. Register. Where are you? There you are. So copy these. Nice and easy. And then I'm going to open this up, close that, let's say, and I'm going to paste it over here. And then I'm just going to use this as a guide so I know what to feed in for this parameter. So what do we want to do? We want to register our parameter double. I could have copied that. Oh well. Now, speed. We want to control the speed. So the speed is the parameter name, and then that second speed is the label for the control, and then we'll have a default speed which I will put as 0.5, and then at the minimum speed which I'll put, yeah, it is minimum, right? Yeah, 0.1000, and then a maximum speed which will also be 1000. There we go. And let's compile that. There we go. We have a little control over here. Very cute now. Nice. Now, it doesn't control the cube yet though. It's not wired into the cube. The cube is wired to have a hard-coded value of 0.5. So let's just wire that in. But before we do that, we need to link this thing with this thing. And there's no linking factor. We need the variable. So I'm going to declare another variable now. Dim speed val as double equals, and we'll make it the default value to match with our logic, 0.5. Now we have the event, right? This event triggers when you press the buttons, but we don't have any event that triggers when you change this parameter. So we need a on parameter change event to work with our little draggable parameter here. So we're going to find on parameter change. There we go. On parameter change. So this guy is going to do something basic. It's just going to find our speed variable, and it's going to feed in whatever we set into our created parameter. So that'll be speed. So we're just finding our speed parameter that we created earlier up there. So whenever this parameter changes, it will set this amount with this, which is now 11.5. And then finally we need to wire it in over here. So we'll just say here now speed. All right, let's stop and start this again. I made a boo-boo somewhere. Oh yes, I called it speed val. So let's just make that speed val and make that speed val, and let's try again. Compiled. All right, so let's close this up, open that. Here we have our buttons on and off and on, and let's see if this parameter is controlling the speed now. Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. And you can now speed it up, increase it. Wow, that's fast already. I could have made this max 100 actually. Wow. All right, cool. And then if I slow it back down, of course, it's a real control. So if I go into the minus, it'll turn the direction of the cube. And as you can see in the stage, there's no animation for this. Yeah, and that's our very first little plugin that we made in Viz, using Viz script natively. And what it does, it gives us the 3 parameters, and you can control the speed and rotation of this cube. But this is our very first, very basic step 1, just to wet the toes, you know, easing into that warm bath, get comfortable with the Viz script environment in essence. And it's mainly understanding that you have, of course, the UI that's on the container that you make for your script. You have the little helper window that allows you to investigate the events of the scripts and functions and how to interact with containers. We'll dive more into this as well. I use this a lot. I don't remember everything out of my head. And then there's the script window, of course, that you can use for stop and start script to compile and see how everything runs. Cool. I think I want to keep it at that, so it's not too bloaty, not too long and dragged out. But we'll dive into something more substantive and interesting on the next tutorial. Just to recap, as a final thing before I close the video, what we did here is we started off with scripting by adding a onExec field and then putting a one-line script in there that just alters the rotation of the cube. And because it's under onExec field, it just keeps rotating the cube. And then we added the buttons and the state After that, we added the if statement in, we wrapped the if statement around our existing line of code so that it only rotates when we tell it to with the buttons. And then finally after that, we added the speed parameter, plugged it into a speed variable, and then linked the speed variable with our, whatever variable we were, with the replaced the 0.5 variable, which is hard-coded, with our speed variable that can be controlled by the actual control parameter. I felt like I could have worded that in a much nicer way. But anyways, you get the picture. Thanks everyone for watching.